You, Todd Starnes. Not going to be, obviously, tomorrow we celebrate the nation's birthday, and we just want to thank the U.S. military and all they do for protecting us. They have to employ those policies, regardless if they agree with them or not, and they've done an outstanding job, and freedom is a gift. We go now to a pundit, an expert, who receives praise from people he disagrees with. Now, sometimes that means the person can't hold their own because they don't have the substance. Not in this case. He earns it with substance and logic, and he delivers on, well, how are you going to fix it? I'm not only going to criticize it, I'm going to fix it. Avik Roy, a senior fellow at the Manhattan Institute. In 2012, Avik served as a healthcare advisor to the Mitt Romney campaign, and he has a regular feature in Forbes.com. And Avik, first and foremost, thank you for making time for us tonight. We are honored and blessed.
Oh, you're very kind, and thanks for all the praise. It's great to be with you. It's an important issue.
It is an important issue, and the issue is this: suspending the employer mandate for 1 year. Wow. He's got a magic wand up there, President Obama. He can choose to implement laws and not implement laws. Your thoughts?
Yeah. It's amazing, really, right? And this is not the first time this has happened, by the way. There are about a half dozen examples, and that's just by my short count, of major provisions of this law that they've just chosen not to enact or enforce. Or they're given waivers to their buddies in the unions or whatever. They're doing this all the time. And, there are only so many laws. I mean, we can file as many lawsuits as we can on our side, but sometimes it's just like it's just egregious, and it's up to people in the media to hold them accountable. And that's certainly the conservative media is doing that, but we're the minority.
Isn't this exactly what you warned about, the consequences that have led to this decision before it was passed?
Yeah, I mean, this isn't unexpected. And actually, most of the things that are going on with Obamacare are not surprises to people who understand economics. The big problem here is that you have this whole community on the left in terms of health policy people who, for a long time, because there was this famous article by a Nobel laureate 50 years ago, a liberal Nobel laureate, who said that healthcare is special. The laws of economics don't apply to healthcare. So do whatever you want, have more government intervention because the normal market forces are not applicable. Well, they are, because the laws of economics are about just human behavior, human nature, how we interact with each other when we do things voluntarily and how we respond to incentives. And the thing is, it's very simple. If you make it more expensive for companies to hire workers, companies will hire less of them. This is not rocket science. And yet, for a lot of people on the other side, it kind of is rocket science.
Well, it seems to be. And the part that gets me is everybody's focusing in on, and I understand it, mind you, the 2014 elections, and saying, hey, this is a great move politically. And then others are saying, no, it's not, because it admits the failure of Obamacare. What gets me is, my question is, doesn't this inevitably strengthen the total repeal movement of Obamacare that the House has passed, and we've seen elements of it in the Senate?
I think it will, but I don't think we should wait until 2017 to try to take action here. I think we have an opportunity, because of this particular situation, to repeal the employer mandate entirely. Why should it just be delayed for 1 year? Let's delay it indefinitely. Let's repeal it. There's actually a bill that's been introduced in both the House and the Senate that would repeal the employer mandate entirely. And now that the administration has agreed that the employer mandate is burdensome for businesses, let's see. Let's put it to a vote. Let's see how many Democrats in Congress, in the Senate, will vote against something that will be passionately supported by their constituents, by business people, by people who have these jobs whose hours are getting cut because of the employer mandate. I bet you there's going to be a lot of bipartisan support for repealing the employer mandate.
Do you think the organization of the opposition to Obamacare, as we know, the Affordable Care Act, will be more organized and thereby more effective?
I hope so. I mean, I will say this. There is a debate in conservative circles on this kind of stuff. The first group is kind of like what I'm saying. Let's repeal it while we have the opportunity. It will do a lot for real people who are suffering because of this law. There's another group that says, you know what? If we fix the law, if we improve it in any way, then we're undermining the case for full repeal because Democrats have made this mess. We should just kind of let the mess happen and then say, see, I told you so, and try to build the case for repeal that way. I support that general idea that it's not up to us to bail out the Democrats on this issue. Having said that, we're not going to have the credibility to reform the system in the direction we want until we show that we actually have the concerns of ordinary people, in our
Absolutely.
heart.
And one in the hand is better than two in the bush. So
Totally.
you get it done, and it's also the right thing to do. And here's what gets me, because when you talk about health care and citing the fact that the laws of economics don't apply, 50 years ago the man said that and said, okay, that's what they believe because it's something special, something different. And they tried to incrementally get it through Social Security and then just kept pushing Medicare, everything. You know the history better than anybody. Here's my question. How do conservatives answer the question or deal with the reality, no, we can't cover everybody because inevitably it comes down to somebody advancing their own self-interest and being covered? All we can do is provide an atmosphere where it is the very best or most affordable option. Avik?
Well, so here's the thing. I will give the liberals this. You can cover everyone and do so in a much less expensive way than we do, and actually in a much more market-oriented way than we do. I think a lot of us conservatives have the impression, incorrectly, that we had this free market system that was really awesome, and then Obamacare came along and messed it up. That's not actually true. Medicare enrolls 50 million seniors, and that's a single-payer system. It's no different than England or Canada. Medicaid, single-payer system for the poor, enrolls another 30, 40 million people. So we have actually single-payer government-run health care in America for half the population. And then we have this quasi-system, private system where employers take money out of your pocket and spend it on your behalf to buy health coverage for you. That's not market either, because a true market system, you buy it for yourself, just like you buy auto insurance for yourself, just the way you buy life insurance or homeowners insurance for yourself. You buy health insurance for yourself, right? So if you look at a country like Singapore or Switzerland doesn't have any government-run health insurers. They spend 40% of what we spend on health care, and that's government spending I'm talking about. Singapore has a universal system of catastrophic coverage and HSAs, which is a thing that we conservatives always talk about as the ideal form of health insurance. They spend a seventh of what we spend. And Switzerland and Singapore, they cover everybody. So that's the thing. Like, universal coverage is not the issue. You can actually cover everyone if you do it in a free market way and do it for a fraction of the price we pay. If we had the Singaporean system, we wouldn't have a budget deficit today. So, I want to impress upon people, it's not about universal coverage. It's about government-run health care.
And outstanding points all. What gets me is what you summed up in the market as it is now. It's never been a completely free market, and we have programs that are absolutely going broke and won't be dealt with because we have the cartoonish demagoguery of the healthcare debate. But I guess now I shift to the question of, do you force people to get catastrophic coverage, or does that come in at a certain line in the poverty measure? And if so, how will that be different than any other program that we've put forth in government where we lower that line or lower that standard in the sense of qualification for the program?
Look, in an ideal system, we wouldn't force anybody to do anything, right? But if you think about it today, what do? We force people to pay trillions of dollars in taxes to subsidize these programs that don't work. So if it's a choice between that and having a system where everyone is participating, but they're buying the right kind of insurance on their own, shopping for it on their own and getting private insurance, is that the perfect system? No. But is it a huge advance on what we do now? Yes. So think about the Paul Ryan system for reforming Medicare, right? If we did what Paul Ryan wanted us to do on Medicare reform, which I think all conservatives think is a great, would be a great conservative reform of the Medicare system, every senior would still be required to buy health insurance, right? Mm-hmm. So, it's not a perfect system in that regard. There would still be some element of coercion to it. But would it be better than a single-payer government-run system? Absolutely. So I think one thing that we have to do is we can't just necessarily compare things to the ideal, especially when it comes to health care. Remember, we're spending trillions of dollars already. We have one of the most government-run systems in the world. So we got to move the ball. We got to move the ball. We're at the 20-yard line on our side of the field. We can't just throw the 80-yard pass. We got to get first downs here. And so I look at this as an opportunity to get a first down.
And it's about incrementalism, inevitably, because that's how things are done, fought at the margins. So I appreciate that. And by the way, in Talk Radio Land, we don't have to deal with the politics of it. We can just criticize it. And so it's a lot tougher for you all in the trenches in that sense of making the deal. But even with that said, there are plans out there that encourage competition, and even when they're described falsely as voucherizing something, when there's a baseline that is the second best choice, so to speak, which Paul Ryan, you outlined, there are options, but we're having a healthy discussion about it, and we're doing that only because people like you are intellectually honest enough to tell us about it and advance it. And so, Avik, we appreciate you, man. Thank you.
Hey, it's my pleasure. Keep up the fight.
Amen. All right, Crane Durham's Nothing But Truth. Now, I will have Avik back on because I want to end entitlements, right? I believe there's a way to do it. But to appreciate the steps to get there. And we're going to talk about those steps when it comes to a national gun registry. See, it can be used also on the other side. It is, and they're very effective at it. Find out about that and your Second Amendment rights on the flip side. Crane Durham's Nothing But Truth, AFR Talk.